Hi, and welcome to Week 3. This is Dr. McIntyre. This week we are focusing on organizations with oversight, responsibility, and clinical research. When we say oversight, we are not only talking about monitoring visits. Oversight is the broader system of accountability that ensures participant safety, ethical conduct, regulatory compliance, and data integrity across the full life cycle of a clinical trial and even after the product is approved, most likely post-market surveillance. We are also launching our hormone replacement therapy case study. Dr. Farrell is the lead on the hormonal replacement therapy case study, and it will cover over the next 3 weeks. This case is designed to help you connect oversight responsibilities for this week 3 to real-world outcomes, including how evidence is generated in clinical trials, how decisions are made during regulatory review, and how safety concerns may evolve after approval. Here is our roadmap for today's session. First, we will define what oversight means and what it looks like in practice. Then we will walk through the major organizations involved in oversight, such as sponsors, contracted trial support organizations, research sites, ethic review bodies, safety monitoring groups, regulatory authorities, and vendors. Next, we will spend time on one of the most important professional concepts in clinical research, the difference between delegation and accountability. Many responsibilities can be delegated, but accountability often cannot be transferred. We will then review practical oversight tools used in the real world, including oversight plans, monitoring plans, risk tracking, issues escalating pathways, audits, and corrective and preventive action planning. Finally, we will connect these concepts to the hormone replacement therapy case study. The goal is to build a foundation for your Week 3 assignment, where you will write an executive oversight analysis. Oversight is the ongoing responsibility to ensure the study is conducted correctly and safely. Oversight includes protecting participant safety, ensuring informed consent is valid and properly documented, and confirming the study procedures follow the protocol and regulatory requirements. Oversight also includes ensuring that data are accurate, complete, and reliable. This matters because regulatory decisions and clinical practice decisions are based on these data. Finally, oversight means recognizing when something is going wrong, escalating it appropriately, and taking corrective action. Importantly, oversight must be documented. In clinical research, undocumented oversight is essentially invisible during an audit or an inspection. A key takeaway: oversight is proactive, not just reactive. Strong oversight systems detect issues early before they become major compliance or safety problems. Oversight in clinical research is shared across multiple organizations, and each organization has a different role. No single organization does it all. The sponsor may be accountable for overall quality, but the sponsor relies on contracted partners, research sites, ethic review bodies, and vendors to carry out essential functions. This shared system is one reason clinical research can be very complex. Problems often occur when oversight responsibilities are unclear, when communication breaks down, or when an organization assumes someone else is managing the risk. As future clinical research leaders, you need to be able to map oversight responsibilities quickly. When a problem occurs, you should be able to answer who owns the issue, who needs to be informed, what is the escalation pathway, and what documentation is required. The sponsor is the organization that initiates the clinical trial and is ultimately accountable for its oversight and quality. Sponsors are responsible for selecting qualified research sites and ensuring they are adequately trained and supported. Sponsors must also oversee contracted trial partners and vendors. Even if the sponsor hires a CRO, the sponsor still remains accountable for the trial quality. Sponsors establish the monitoring strategies, including how risks are identified and managed. They are responsible for ensuring safety reporting expectations are clear, that issues are escalated, and that corrective actions are taken when needed. Sponsors are also responsible for the accuracy and completeness of regulatory submissions. After approval, sponsors continued oversight through post-approval safety monitoring and risk communication. A common misconception is that the sponsors can hand off responsibility when they outsource operations. In reality, outsourcing changes who performs tasks, but it does not remove sponsors' accountability. Sponsors frequently hire contracted trial support organizations, such as clinical research organizations or CROs, to manage the day-to-day trial operations. These organizations may coordinate site communication, support training, conduct monitoring activities, track issues, and help manage trial timeliness. They often serve as the operational bridge between the sponsor and the research site. However, it is important to understand that these organizations typically work under delegated responsibilities. Their work still must be overseen by the sponsor. Oversight problems can occur when the sponsor becomes too reliant on a contract organization and does not maintain active governance. Effective sponsor oversight includes reviewing performance metrics, auditing processes, and confirming that escalation pathways are functioning. In real trials, CROs may identify problems early, but if escalation is delayed or minimized due to timeline pressures, risk can grow. That is why governance and communication are critical. Research sites are where the clinical trial is actually conducted. The site team interacts directly with participants and has responsibility for participant safety and protocol compliance. The principal investigator is responsible for oversight of all trial activities at the site, even when tasks are delegated to coordinators, nurses, or other staff. Site oversight includes ensuring informed consents, or ICFs, is properly obtained and documented, ensuring that study visits follow the protocol, and ensuring that all study data are recorded accurately. Sites are also responsible for timely identification and reporting of adverse events and serious adverse events. Delays in reporting can create significant participant safety risk and regulatory compliance risk. Another key site oversight responsibility is ensuring staff are trained and qualified. Incomplete training documentation is a common audit and inspection finding, and it can undermine confidence in the reliability of the trial data. Ethics review bodies provide oversight focused on protecting human subjects. Before a study begins, ethics review bodies evaluate whether risks are minimized, whether informed consent is appropriate, and whether participant protection are adequate. During the study, ethics review bodies may review amendments, changes to the consent form, and reports of serious issues or noncompliance. They can require corrective action, additional monitoring, or restrictions on enrollment if participant protections are at risk. Ethic oversight is especially important in cases involving consent versions, control problems, inadequate disclosure of risk, or failure to report significant safety concerns. A key point is that ethics review bodies are not responsible for day-to-day operations, but their oversight decisions can directly affect whether a study can continue at a site. Independent safety monitoring groups provide oversight focused on safety trends that may not be visible in a single site. These groups review safety data over time. They may identify patterns that suggest increased risk in certain populations or in risk that emerge with longer exposure. Independent safety monitoring groups can recommend changes to the study, such as an additional monitoring, protocol modifications, and in some cases, pausing or stopping the trial. Their independence is important because it supports objective decision-making. In clinical trials, enrollment pressures, timelines, and financial incentives can unintentionally influence how risks are perceived. Independent safety monitoring helps ensure participant safety remains the priority. You will also see this in the hormone replacement therapy case study. This type of oversight is critical because long-term risk may only emerge after extended use or widespread exposure. Regulatory authority oversees clinical research through approval reviews, inspections, and post-approval safety requirements. During approval review, regulatory authorities evaluate whether the evidence supports the product's safety and effectiveness. They also review whether the trial conduct and data integrity are adequate to support the conclusion. Regulatory authorities may inspect sponsors, contract research organizations, and research sites. Inspections evaluate compliance, documentation, and whether oversight systems are functioning. After approval, regulatory authorities continue oversight through post-approval safety monitoring expectations. If new safety concerns emerge, they can require labeling changes, additional post-approval studies, study communication, or other regulatory actions. A key concept is that approval does not mean the oversight ends. In many cases, oversight becomes even more important after approval because the product is used in larger and more diverse populations and over a longer extended time. Delegation and accountability are often confused, but they are not the same. Delegation means assigning tasks to another party. For example, a sponsor may delegate monitoring to a CRO, and a principal investigator may delegate study procedures to their trained staff. Accountability means responsibility for outcomes and oversight effectiveness. Accountability usually cannot be transferred. The sponsor remains accountable for overall trial oversight and quality, even if a contracted organization performs operational work. The principal investigator remains accountable for participant safety and protocol compliance at the site, even if the staff perform the daily task. The distinction becomes especially important during audits and inspections. Regulators will ask not only who performed a task, but also who ensures the task was done correctly and what oversight evidence exists. In executive roles, understanding delegation versus accountability is essential for managing risk and making defensive decisions. Oversight must be supported by tools and systems. Strong oversight is structured and measurable. Oversight plans and governance structures define how organizations work together and how decisions are made. Monitoring plans define how sites will be reviewed and what will be checked. Risk assessment tools help identify where problems are most likely to occur and allow organizations to prioritize oversight activities. Issue logs track problems, actions taken, and whether issues are resolved. Training documentation systems support compliance by showing that staff are qualified to perform tasks. Audit and inspection readiness reviews provide independence checks that oversight systems are functioning. Corrective and preventive action plans are used to address root cause and prevent reoccurrence. A key expectation in clinical research is not only to fix problems, but to prevent them from happening again. Oversight occurs throughout the entire product lifecycle. It begins during trial planning and startup, when sites and vendors are selected and governance structures are established. It continues during trial conduct through monitoring, issue escalation, and quality management. Oversight remains critical during data review and regulatory submission because incomplete and unreliable data can lead to incorrect conclusions and cause harm to patients. After approval, oversight continues through post-approval safety monitoring evaluation of real-world outcomes and risk communication. Such as the case you will be working on, the hormone replacement therapy case, illustrates this concept. Oversight decisions made early in development can have long-term consequences, and post-approval oversight can lead to significant regulatory actions years later. This week, we begin our case study exploring hormone replacement therapy. We will examine early treatment methodologies and how hormone formulations evolve over time. We will discuss how clinical trials were designed to support approval and what outcomes were prioritized. We will focus on post-approval outcomes, including safety signals that emerge after widespread use. We will discuss how oversight responsibilities shift after approval and how risk communications become essential. Finally, we will connect these lessons to a recent regulatory action by the FDA, highlighting how post-approval oversight can result in labeling changes, additional study requirements, and other actions to protect public health. Post-approval oversight is essential because clinical trials have limitations. Trials often include selected populations, controlled conditions, and limited duration. After approval, products are used by larger, more diverse populations, sometimes for longer periods than studied in trials. Rare adverse events and long-term risk may only become apparent after widespread use. Additionally, real-world adherence and prescribing patterns may differ from the trial environment. Post-approval oversight includes collecting safety reports, analyzing trends, updating risk information, and communicating clearly to clinicians and patients. The goal is to ensure that benefits continue to outweigh the risk as new information emerges. Many oversight failures are system failures rather than single mistakes. Common breakdowns include delayed escalation of safety concerns, inconsistent documentation across sites, weak training and delegation controls, and poor vendor oversight. Another common issue is unclear communication pathways. When roles are not clarified or clearly defined, problems may not be escalated to the right people quickly enough. Finally, corrective action may be implemented, but preventive action may be weak. If root causes are not addressed, the same problems reoccur across site or across studies. Recognizing these patterns is important because it helps clinical research leaders design oversight systems that prevent problems rather than only reacting after harm occurs. In closing, today we define oversight and review how oversight responsibilities are shared across organizations and the importance of it. We emphasize the difference between delegation and accountability and review practical tools that support oversight. We've also launched the hormone replacement therapy case, which we will continue exploring over the next weeks. Thank you and have a good week on 3.